Alrighty, guys, let's dive now into our second review of the evening. It's going to be of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's a 2022 American superhero film based on Marvel Comics, featuring the character Doctor Strange. Produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Motion Pictures, it is the sequel to Doctor Strange from 2016 and the 28th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film was directed by Sam Raimi, written by Michael Waldron, and stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Stephen Strange, alongside Elizabeth Olsen, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Benedict Wong. How to pronounce this person? Xochitl. I should have looked this up beforehand. Gomez, Michael Stuhlbarg, and Rachel McAdams. In the film, Strange protects America Chavez, played by Gomez, a teenager capable of traveling the multiverse, from Wanda Maximoff, played by Olsen. Doctor Strange director and co-writer Scott Derrickson had plans for a sequel by October 2016. He signed to return as director in December 2018 when Cumberbatch was confirmed to return. The film's title was announced in July 2019 along with Olsen's involvement, while Jade Haley Bartlett was hired to write the film that October. Derrickson stepped down as director in January 2020, citing creative differences, with Waldron and Raimi joining the next month and starting over. They added elements of the horror genre that Raimi had worked with previously, and made Maximoff the villain of the film, continuing her story from the series WandaVision. Filming began in November 2020 in London, but was put on hold in January 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Production resumed by March 2021 and concluded in mid-April in Somerset. Shooting also occurred in Surrey and LA. The film has grossed over $807 million worldwide, making it the highest grossing film of 2022 so far. Wait, really? I thought Batman did more. Anyway, critics praised Raimi's direction, the visuals, and the performances of the cast, particularly those of Cumberbatch, Olsen, and Gomez. Hang on a second. Oh yeah, No Way Home was end of last year, right? Was that this year?
No, last year.
That was this year.
That was last year. No Way Home.
Time's a flat circle.
I was well and truly still in Armidale when that came out.
Fair enough. Critics praised Raimi's direction, the visuals, and the performances of the cast. Sorry?
Sochi is
thank you. Xochitl Gomez, particularly those of Cumberbatch, Olsen, and Gomez. But the pacing and writing received criticism. Audiences seem to like this one, 7.4 on IMDb from 172,000 users, while the critics are more discerning, 60 Metascore. Rotten Tomatoes, gents, what do you think?
70 even.
Ooh.
I was thinking like lowish 70s, but it's going to sound like I'm just trying to go closer than Ben. So I'm going to go over. I don't think it's this high, but I'm going to say 76.
74%.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what I thought.
Ben, Price is Right rules.
Yeah.
Takes the cake on this one. What do you think?
Oh, man.
Everyone knows that you're been quite the critic of the MCU, particularly post, let's say, Infinity War, Ben.
Yeah.
Yes, did Raimi and Strange and Maximoff do anything to redeem the MCU in your eyes?
I'll tell you one thing. This movie is a whole hell of a lot better than the first Doctor Strange film.
Oh, hell yeah.
I revolted from the first Doctor Strange film. I didn't love the direction that Marvel was going, where they're bringing wizards and magic and all this kind of crazy crap into the world, into the MCU. And I mean, like, I'm not an MCU fanboy. I think you can do what you want. I just didn't love the movie. I didn't love the CGI garbage. Every frame for 5 minutes is 100% computer generated schlock at the end of that film, just like at the end of Black Widow. It's the same thing again. I don't believe a single thing that my eyes are seeing. I mean, like, that they're in some multi-dimensional void or something.
Yeah, the Mirrorverse, that always got me as well. I'm like, what is happening? Who's falling? Who's flying? I don't know. I can't tell.
As far as, like, there's very hard to track and understand what's going on, and then just my eyes just giving up. Like, my brain just goes,
yeah.
This doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care.
It reminds me of the first Transformers, just like metal on metal. I'm like, I can't tell who's winning.
Like that Simpsons episode where Homer's brain just goes, well, I'm out of here, and you hear like the brain walking and then slamming the door behind him as he leaves his head, or whatever. Kind of that reaction is what I had to the first one. This one, way better. Way better. Almost to the point where I liked it.
Whoa!
Almost.
The other thing is, like, these guys, they've throwing ungodly amounts of money at the screen
are.
to make things look amazing. And
Yeah.
I guess we've learned that it takes infinity money to make a third eye on Benedict Cumberbatch's head look anything like good, because that thing looked so silly. He's got like the, you know,
It looked garbage, didn't
yeah,
it?
the Eastern traditional third eye thing. It just like pops open and looks around and stuff, and it looks atrocious. I would have much more enjoyed someone just painted one on. It would have been an artistic choice, and I would have flown with that. I would have gone totally, that's fine. But they've gone with, look at this realistic eye that is on his head. He now has a third eye there. Isn't that great? I'm like, it is not great.
He's like, no.
That thing looks terrible. That's a nitpick. Like, there's a whole movie. It's not all about the third eye thing. I got other nitpicks. I hate the whole, it takes the villain a whole half a day worth of chanting and getting ready to,
Oh yeah.
you know, once the, you know how
charge the spirit bomb then.
yeah, they're going to charge the spirit bomb. It's just like in the Justice League when the witch is powering up to destroy the world, and it's like, just destroy the world if you're so powerful. Like, she's, you know,
Yeah.
that whole thing, you know, where like, we've only got a few hours left to save the day just in time. But like, okay, so there's at the start of the film, there's this moment of Doctor Strange is going to grab this special power straight out of the body of an innocent girl. It's just kind of a
Rip the life right out of you.
kind of like an ooh thing. And it's like, because we're out of time, it's like, I need your power so that the universe can survive or whatever, for the greater good or what have you. And so they've put a flag down that says you can grab the power out of a young girl in a couple of seconds. No fuss, no muss. And then like later on, it's they like, you know, nitpicks again. Like later on, it takes like a whole day of like, oh, I'm still sucking the power out. It's not working. Can't get the bottom of the glass or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't
There's
know.
ice stuck at the bottom of the straw.
The straw's got a hole in it.
I decided to add some tapioca pills like boba tea, and it's just, you know, I'm just keep getting those. Yeah.
There's one more nitpick, and then I'll talk big picture stuff. There's a bunch of cameos which I won't ruin any of, which I'm sure fanboys loved. I couldn't give two shits about all the amazing Marvel characters they just throw in the mix, and they're like, look, we're still Marvel and we can throw together a bag of shit. And one of those characters is introduced as the smartest man on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the smartest man on the planet, such and such. He just like bumps into frame, and he's like super smart or whatever. And so my note here is, he really must be the smartest guy on the planet if everyone else in the universe is so fucking dumb that they'll think that this idiot is the smartest guy on the planet, because he is not that smart. He does things that don't, like, he is called to action, and he does a very, very bad job of defending himself and the planet when push comes to shove. And he didn't seem at all intelligent to me, not one iota. That was a very nitpick, and I'll move straight on. One thing this movie did, which I really, really liked, was I was sitting there with the whole, these guys are all wizards and stuff. I mean, like, why doesn't he use this magic? Why doesn't he do something like that? And every time I thought something like that, he immediately did it. And I went, okay, fine. I'm like, you know, my arms crossed. I'm like, why doesn't he just use the dimensional mirror trick? That would confuse the crap out of someone. And they go, oh, okay, he did it, fine, whatever. There was another one where it's like, why don't they just do that? And then they literally did it right as I thought that to myself. I'm like, okay, fine, you got it. Maybe you're not one step ahead of me, but you're there to keep me in check from being a brat. So I had to lick my wounds a bunch of times watching this, because I went in there with the wrong attitude of hating the movie without seeing it first. You know, oh, well, what about this? And then that happens. They answer the question. I'm like, okay, what about that? And then they answer that question. So it was very cool. I actually liked that. And I loved how you, in the synopsis, Shane, you mentioned the horror element. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, it was refreshing, wasn't it?
That was a really nice twist of lemon into this magic cocktail that made it fun. Like it made it much more fun, especially right at the end in the third act when it's like got to pull a rabbit out of the hat kind of deal to like how are we going to all the chips are down, what are we going to do kind of thing. And then the thing that they come up with is just like so great. I loved it. Um, so overall, it's fine. It was fun.
Good. That's probably the largest amount of praise that Ben's given an MCU film since Infinity War.
It's just that there are other movies out there. There are other people make other films than superhero films, but so many people will only go and watch a superhero film like as if the superhero films are all Mercedes, and you get it for the same ticket price as all these other Toyotas and Mitsubishi, and that is not at all. Yeah, it is the opposite of that reality. Like all these multi-dimensional fan service jerk off CGI stuff, they're not as like honestly, they're really not as great as a peach of a film like Everything Everywhere All at Once is the latest one that was just an absolute peach. It deserves every dollar that every MCU movie has ever earned all at once in its pocket. Like it is better than them all combined. It's such a great film. And then there's Dune, and then like there's just tons of films where teams of people just pour their hearts into this thing. Like it's a once in a lifetime idea, once in a lifetime execution, once in a lifetime performance. And you almost never ever will see that in an MCU film. The MCU film is a factory that's churning out interest, keeping you interested in the next installment in the soap opera that it has become. But this one was fine. This one was good.
I'd say Ben, bit of a wizard there, just turning this Doc Strange review into another discussion about everything everywhere at once. Mr. Fear, I'm keen to hear your thoughts. Did you enjoy the first Doc Strange? Tell me.
I enjoyed elements of it. I'm not. I wasn't particularly well versed in any of the comic book stuff of Doc Strange. Like I'd never like. I'm not an MCU comic guy. I'm not a DC comic guy. I've borrowed a few comics from like Jason Hendricks over the years, and some of those have been great. Most of my stuff comes from like the Marvel Ultimate Alliance video games. Like that's how I got to know most of the characters, because you play them or unlock them or interact with them in the Ultimate Alliance games. So Doc Strange was an enigma to me, and so I didn't mind the first film. It was kind of I can't disagree with Ben. It ends up just being CG spew by the end of it, but the story that it was telling was kind of interesting. This definitely is far, far superior to the first movie. The first movie, I think, it's kind of like Thor. It does what it's supposed to do. It establishes the character. It gives a bit of context, a bit of background, and establishes them into the universe in a non-rushed way, like might have been the case if he was just injected into one of the Avengers movies. Like if he just kind of swung in and was like, "Hey, I'm in an Avengers movie because I'm the Sorcerer Supreme." So
kind of like how half the characters just appear in Justice League movies.
Exactly, that's precisely what I'm referring to. But half of them appear in freaking Batman vs Superman for no reason. But
shit movie.
I think
Wonder Woman appeared in that before Wonder Woman came out, right?
Precisely, yeah.
That
That was the very next film and Flash was in it as well. So like
the only character that had been introduced before Batman vs Superman was Superman.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
that was Ben Affleck's first Batman. Oh god,
yeah, it's a
film.
travesty. And so I like the first one as an establishing movie, because they at least took the time to sort of flesh out this magic stuff so that it's at least plausible, so that when you have movies like Shang-Chi where you have Wong come in and he comes through this dimensional portal. That makes sense. That's nested already elsewhere in the Marvel movies, the same as in Endgame and all of those other bits and pieces. I love seeing this movie. This movie was really quite enjoyable. I liked the banter that Benedict Cumberbatch has with Peter Parker in the No Way Home movie, and I like that he's still sassy in this film. Yeah, I love that it's a horror thing, but it's a really specific type of horror horror genre. It's like on the
Harui, thanks for the raid. How are you?
Oh, we got
Keep going, Terry.
raided. Yeah. It's on the edge of cheese. Like, you've got like the strings suddenly happening and like these sudden kind of jump scares, like this big red clouds coming towards this character, and then like she just kind of pops out of it and you get this like as she does so, and it's like, I love that type of, it's kind of maybe a bit of an homage to like 90s early 2000s horror films.
There was a lot of actual
very
references
atmospheric.
to like Evil Dead and stuff in this.
Yeah,
too.
Ash and the Evil Dead. Yeah, and yeah,
That was Sam Raimi.
yes, and the cameo from that, the actor from that is kind of nice to see in this as well. Because when I saw him, I was like, this makes sense, and whatnot. I liked that this also is this spoilery? This is a gory film compared to other Marvel movies, and I think that's great. Oh, nice. The Xbox Cast Crew sent them. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't like that Maximoff was the villain, because I liked her character and I thought that there was room for like a proper redemption arc for the character, especially with the way that the series ended, even though it ended with her kind of doing research stuff in some pretty occult nonsense, and then you get this. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely guilty of some of the same things that the first one is, which is like crazy madness CG circumstances, but a lot of it looks kind of cool. Not all of it, but most of it. I thought it was kind of stupid that like,
You mean the movie in general?
no, just moments in the movie where like characters like they lose focus for just a moment, and then she's like where like, I suppose her powers have developed, but like, you know, she had to literally be like sneak up behind Tony Stark, touch her finger to his head to be able to get into his mind, and like she's now floating on the other side of a force field, and he's able to like tell a guy to run, and like not only does he run, he trips everybody else over, and yeah.
You know that.
Oh, she's the Scarlet Witch now.
That whole sequence would have
power
been.
up.
She got a costume.
She did get a costume and a name change.
It would. Tell me if I'm wrong here, Terry, but I think that whole scene would have been an order of magnitude better if, and I realize they have to do this because there are idiots that watch this film, if Doctor Strange didn't just say she's trying to enter their minds, like, and tell like exposition to us what's happening.
Yeah.
And if she actually just did it,
Yeah.
and then we go, oh, I see what she's doing there, instead of like Doctor Strange just saying what's about to happen. She's about to do some mind stuff, everyone. Remember how she could do that a couple of movies ago?
Yeah.
Here it comes, and then she she
proximity
does
no longer necessary.
and it's a soft blow, like it doesn't land as hard because we're just like, yeah, I remember. But
I like Spirited Sojourner's like, yeah, she couldn't get her blast in, but her brainworms can come through. Like, totally. I mean, I will say that, you know, there's things,
And that is the scientific term for her powers.
So
Yes, the
not
brainworms.
necessarily airtight. But yeah, it's like because reasons, and like she's in this mirror dimension thing, and she's like able to then use them as portals. I'm like, that I would get a refund on that spell. Like, whoever sold them that spell, I would get a refund on that spell, because it made her more powerful, not less, because like she just like bamfed other people out using puddles. Anyway, how do I? Yeah,
if you want to start thinking like that, like you've fallen down a rabbit hole of like, okay, why doesn't Doctor Strange just put the MacGuffin girl into one of those dimensional things that no one
little pocket
can
dimension
find, and all kinds of stuff like that.
There's heaps of things. Like it's been established that you can cut people in half. You can amputate limbs with the portals. And I'm like, Just
Could've done it
open
with
one of
Thanos
those
when he was like,
portals
yeah.
inside their torso. Just be like, zing, like done. Like anyway.
Yeah, could have offed Thanos in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Just
Oh yeah. So many
trying
things.
to pull the gauntlet off.
I think that was in how it should have ended. Like they portaled off his hand and like snapped. Like yeah, it's like the easiest thing in the world. But it's like then
There's
the
a
movie
whole bunch
doesn't
of
happen.
spell-related things that you could like there's this big giant thing like trying to climb a building, and the most ingenious spell that the Supreme Commander Spellman can think of, and Doctor Strange is like, I know, a lasso.
Yeah,
We'll
chains.
use our body weight to hold him back. That'll stop him. Like there's a million spells. Like you were just using spells to cut off his limbs. Why don't you keep going with that?
Yeah,
keep
that was
them.
great. Yeah, that was super effective. It kind of makes me think this is the second time in maybe a few episodes. I don't remember when we last spoke about it, but Goblin Slayer, the anime, brilliant anime. If you can get past the first episode,
There's always leave.
Yeah, it's because there's
Final Fantasy 13, great game if you get past the first 25 hours.
No,
really
it's not like that. The episodes are short. This guy is just a dude that kills goblins, but he's like, there is going to be a time where I'm going to need something bigger, and so he trades favors with this spellcaster to get like a portal spell, but the portal spell is anchored to the bottom of the ocean, and it lets whatever is on the bottom of the ocean come through. So it's like super high pressure water, and he uses it to carve up like an ogre mage thing.
Is he like creating like a pinhole portal so that he can like the whole ocean in a pinhole bullet?
It's bigger than a pinhole. It's like it comes through in like maybe a 10-foot or maybe a 15-foot kind of thing, and it just shears this thing in half. Doctor Strange could just portal to the bottom of the ocean and like do the exact same thing. Like that's some random chucklehead goblin adventure guy, and like this dude. Anyway.
Jason is so gonna go binge Goblin Hunter now. It's like, what is
definitely
this?
watch Goblin Hunter. If you haven't seen Goblin Slayer, Jace, I think it's very much something that you would enjoy. It's probably one of the best like adaptations of like D&D in an anime that I've seen. There's plenty of games, plenty of anime that kind of have that like JRPG themes, but it's probably one of the best.
That's what they needed in this movie to like quell the magic stuff, like all the questions of like, why don't you use a cooler spell? Why don't you use that same spell that you just used that's really cool and effective? And they could have just gone like, only prepared it once today, something D&D like that, where I have to go through a long rest before I can do this. That
literally happens.
No, I'm saying they should have done this in Doctor Strange.
Oh, right, yeah, no, 100%.
Right.
Yeah, I've got spell slots. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I can only do this a number of times.
I've just used all the reagents. I've lost all my,
I've got no more diamond dust
or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
What's I do with Iron Man's little red laser that cuts through anything? It's like it ejects itself, and that's the one that he's got.
That's it.
And he uses it to cut into a ship. Anyway.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll jump into my thoughts now. I got quite a few of them. It's interesting, Ben. Like you're kind of like landed in the middle, but you came up from the bottom. I'm like coming down from having enjoyed, quite a few of the recent MCU movies.
Without spoilers, what did you guys think of the thing that I mentioned? The what did I even call it? I can't even remember. The
big monster thing at the start?
No, not the big monster thing. The fan service. Look at all these wonderful characters from all over the MCU, and aren't they? Isn't it great that they're all here?
Look, I think fan service is fine as long as it's not like the main component of your dish,
Yeah.
So like that this movie made it the main component of the dish for that 10 minutes.
I don't think so, no, but I just don't think, and I'll get into my thoughts, I don't think the other components of the dish are particularly nourishing or tasty, to continue with the food theme that we have here. So yeah, I'm coming down where I got to the end of this film and I was watching it with Kim and Will. I think Kim asked, like, what did you guys think? And I was like, yep, it was another Marvel movie. And then I walked out of the cinema middling, and then the week afterwards, like as time progressed, I got more and more angry. I got more and more hateful, just because we've seen what they can achieve, in this cinematic universe with these characters. And so it annoys me, it frustrates me that they're not at this point knocking it out of the park.
Right.
And this film was like so clumsy in my mind. I thought there was way too much convenience scattered throughout. And I thought it was some of the weakest writing. I double checked what Michael Waldron had done. Not much. He done like a few episodes of Rick and Morty, which probably served him well in the creativity department here. But there were so many moments where I'm like, what this was reminding me of like pre-MCU superhero films. There's a moment where Doc Strange and Chavez are navigating the streets of this new dimension that they've just entered, and they stumble onto this memory device. It's going to give us a bunch of exposition about their history. And I'm like, this is not organic at all. This is not natural. Like, what is going on? Like, what am I watching right now?
It's great. I have a point here I didn't read out. I like the exposition / plot machine. The memory thing.
Oh man, I thought it was so lazy. I thought it was so lazy and so inorganic. And
another word is efficient.
Lazy. Yeah. That's what I put it. Lazy. Like, let's shortest route to our destination. Let's do this.
It's like in universe narration. It's not even like a voiceover being like, "Oh, I'm thinking about these memories."
The laziness there. I would say I would attribute laziness to the part where the thought. Okay, this is one of the things where I had a thought. I was like, "This doesn't make any sense. Why does this make sense?" And then someone asks the question, and I was like, Take the point, movie, you win. It was, hang on, Scarlet Witch's children are made up. They don't exist anywhere. And that exact question is brought up, and then she's like, well, I dreamed of them. So they must be real, because we've already established 20 minutes ago, if you dream of it, that means that it's happening in another universe.
Right.
And so that's like very cheap. It still doesn't make sense. Like they haven't given any sort of, they haven't posited any way that any universe could have had her children be real. But they've just told us it's real. Let's move on. And I'm like, that's all right. That's all right.
There's a couple of thoughts in chat I want to get to. Harui, thank you again for the raid. Says the whole "you took us to the realities we needed to go" all along MacGuffin was lazy. Sojourn also says the laziness wasn't a problem for me, but the "I'm gonna keep standing on this while my pain is played in public until the salient points are shown." Like I said, I'm middling on this film. There's stuff I like, there's stuff I didn't. I'll bounce between the two. Like I said, I think it's some of the weakest writing we've seen in the MCU. I like the weirdness though. Like I think it was done well to establish in the first Doctor Strange that this is otherworldly compared to what we've seen before. And I think that Raimi's direction in particular plays really, really well into that. There were some really great stylistic choices. I was like, oh wow, this is a type of storytelling, filmmaking, cinematography we haven't seen in the MCU before. I don't know if it's going to age well, but I'm liking it right now. So I enjoyed the fact that it's like the first film, felt very different to any other MCU film that we'd seen before. Back onto like nitty gritty stuff, like I was struggling to like follow what is the main story arc that we're going to get to here. And then, because I thought Wanda was kind of a cool villain. Like I like her character, and I love the grief of hers that's explored in the series, and how that manifests here into something, sinister was kind of cool. But I was like, what is Strange's story arc? Like I get where America Chavez is coming from, and I get the interplay between the two, but it's not entirely clear for the most part, other than his duty, what, Strange's sort of character motivations are. And then in the third act, it's like it's pigeonholed all of a sudden that it's his fear that's driving him, and I didn't get any sense of that in the first two acts. So yeah, again, I thought that just played into then, like, I don't know what this movie was trying to be, which then plays into my whole point around just like the fan service, and it's cool, and like I said, it's not the main component of this film, so I enjoy that it's just like this cool little moment halfway through. But to my other point, like I found there was no real great meat backing up the rest of it, whereas that's not how I felt about No Way Home. I think No Way Home leans into its fan service, but at the end of the day, it's a fantastic Peter Parker story. Like my greatest compliment coming out of No Way Home is that the stakes in that film are so high, and the sacrifice that Peter Parker makes at the end of that film is hit me on an emotional level in the same way that other great MCU movies had hit me. Or I'm just like, holy cow, this guy is a superhero in the truest sense. He's sacrificing everything he has to save the people that he loves.
Could you remind me what that was? Because I remember coming out of Doctor Strange 2 going like, isn't everyone supposed to forget all about Spider-Man, and like, not because they're mentioning Spider-Man? Oh, he's this guy.
They forget that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. They still know Spider-Man.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But yeah, in No Way Home, it's Peter Parker, saying like, no one's going to remember who I am. And that is the sacrifice. Like, he gives up MJ, he gives up his best friend, he gives up everyone to save everyone else. And he's left all alone. Like, I thought that was such an incredible Peter Parker story. I love that.
While we're on the filling me in part of some things I didn't understand, there's one more thing. Isn't Doctor Strange's hands supposed to tremble? Didn't he make a choice to, like, his choice in the first movie was he can give up expressing himself with magic and go back to his life as a surgeon, or his hands will still tremble, but he can do magic. Wasn't that the movie?
No. So the magic was the thing that healed his hands. Because that the post credits scroll is Chiwetel Ejiofor's character
undoing
magic that had healed other people. So there was a guy.
The guys that healed themselves with magic were no longer part of the temple and magic users and so on. They had challenged.
They'd gone back to their normal life.
Traded in their magic for a once-off heal or something. Like their magic is now just utilized into, now I can walk and be a regular person again or whatever.
I think they might be mistaken. It has been quite a while since I've watched it, but I thought it was the point for them. So they only went there in order to cure their ailment. And so I think he had the choice to continue or to stop now that he got what he wanted. Because the whole point of him going there was to get a fix for his hands. He was single-minded in his determination to fix his hands.
Are you sure that that's what happened, though? Like, so he could now drop in and do a surgery if he wanted to, and then...
If he wanted to, I suppose he could.
I swear I remember
he'd be a better surgeon as a magician than he was as an actual surgeon.
For him, he wants to... He wanted the fame, but he also wants to save people. And I think by the end of Doc Strange 1, he's thinking to himself, I can save a lot more people doing this instead of being a surgeon.
Yeah.
I remember in Infinity War when he grabs the time stone, his hands are on purpose. They're wiggling. He grabs the...
I think that's because he's just been fighting Thanos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was going to end all this with, like, his hands are still as crap. He's not wiggling his hands at all. What a bad actor. But all right, I guess I just misunderstood.
Yeah. So in that sense, like, just back onto like Strange's motivations and the fear that just seemed to come out of nowhere in the third act. I thought that was a bit odd, and I really didn't feel like that character development between Strange and America Chavez was there. So the final moment doesn't feel earned in my mind.
Yeah,
and that's why I kind of like I'm left deflated by the end of the initial viewing. And then there are just too many faux pas in this movie. There is the Mission Impossible Rogue Nation hallway scene, exactly the same that happens here, where the big bad is chasing our heroes down a hallway, like not 10 meters away. And, you know, our Scarlet Witch has the ability to just disintegrate a person, as she demonstrates at the end of the first act, when she attacks the temple. So yeah, she's pulling punches, and again, that just goes into the nitpicking and what we discussed earlier. Yeah, and that just back onto the laziness of the writing. There was one particular character that enters, hopefully you guys will get this reference. They enter her mind and they're about to pull her out from a pile of rubbles, and he says, maybe if I pull you out from this rubble, the curse will be lifted, or, you know, the spell will break. I'm like, what are you doing? No one needed to hear that. Like, what is this writing? Like, it was just, oh man, I found it to be painful. I felt like there was half a dozen other moments like that in this film that really, really hurt it for me. So, yeah, I'm a bit back and forth. I think the fan service is like the least offensive thing in this movie. I thought it was let's jump into spoilers. Let's do verdicts, and then I just want to finish that point. For me, it's a don't rush. I can't give this one a don't miss it. I don't think it's particularly amazing. And that was my other final point. It looks childish coming out a few weeks after Everything Everywhere All at Once. It looks completely
amateur hour,
mediocre, amateur hour in comparison. I thought timing was just, you know, two multiverse movies coming out in like less than a month apart. I thought it pales in comparison to Everything Everywhere All at Once. So yeah, it's a don't rush for me.
Yeah, same. I think it's don't rush. If you're gonna see it, you'll see it eventually. It's not a cinematic masterpiece. You can watch it on your TV at home, and that's what it's been
Yeah.
designed for. It's been designed for
Yeah.
mass viewings in whatever screen that you can find it on.
I will say that I kind of feel like this film is it's relatively important if you're invested in the broader lore of what the MCU are doing. Like, so I'm like, don't rush from a cinematic standpoint, but I'm like, a don't miss it if you're trying to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening.
Yeah, watch it before the next Avengers movie.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how the rest of this phase of Marvel movies are going to go. I will say I'm pretty excited for Love and Thunder. I don't know why.
I am too.
I don't know why that I'm excited for it, but
I just the fact that Waititi's back on board. I'm just like,
yeah,
okay.
that's probably it.
Probably gonna
Because
watch it.
I like Ragnarok is still probably one of my favorite, if not my very favorite. So much about it is so good. So I'm very, very excited for it. And I would hate to watch that and then have some shit reference back to this film and that I will have missed it. So if you're going to keep watching the Marvel films, watch this film. Don't hurry, though.
Haru, thank you for the follow. Sojin says, I would love a screensaver of traveling through the paint dimension. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Good. That reminded me of Inside Out when they're going through the abstraction machines.
Oh, yeah,
yeah, and
what was that whole room called? It was called the
Imagination
room,
something or something?
room of abstract thought or something.
Yeah.
Or,
anyway,
yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. The point I was going to mention is just referring to the fan service. It's been touched on. We mentioned horror and violence before, but I love the violence in this one. It was just like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That whole scene where Scarlet Witch just tears through.
Yeah.
Mr. Fantastic and all that, like in seconds. It kind of reminded me of Invincible, like the last scene of the first episode of Invincible. I'm like, holy shit, they're doing it. They're going to rip these people apart. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really like that. Haru, thank you for joining us. Hope to see you again.
Planet, by the way, everyone. Smartest man.
Yeah.
right through a chin. Well, that'll take down this witch.
Yeah.
But again, that it goes back to the why doesn't she just, if she can close the mouth of this guy, like why can't she just lop the head off anyone else that she's ever talking to? You know. So, anyway, any other spoilery talks we want to get into, gents? I didn't put up the spoiler warning.
I was just going to say I just noticed we don't have the spoiler warning up. I don't really think so. Not a spoiler, but something that you mentioned. You didn't understand or appreciate the arc that Doc Strange from the MCU that we're familiar with is on. I kind of feel like he's still kind of wrestling with the fact that he made some mistakes. He isn't the Sorcerer Supreme. He's dealing with thoughts of inadequacy. He's dealing with thoughts of like, I've kind of given up and sacrificed this relationship and all of that sort of stuff. And he's like, I'm a ne'er-do-well and whatnot. And the journey that he's on, he's like seeing all of these other versions of himself that have failed or have more obvious failings than he himself has. Like the one that you're first introduced to in the start of the film is like, your life in the greater like cosmic enormity is worth less than me taking that power to protect it. And so he's got that failing. He's like, and a bunch of other people do. And it's like, and he's in this realm where there's the smartest man alive, and I can't remember the name of the guy that speaks death, and Captain Marvel, and all of these things. They're saying that like our guy did the same thing. He toyed with things that he shouldn't be toying with, and it had repercussions. That like we won, but at a cost of himself, in a very real way. And so he's kind of wrestling with those kinds of things. So I didn't mind the arc that he ended up on, where he's realized that he does have redeemable qualities, and like a nobility that is individual to him across at least 4 or 5 universes of comparison, which is kind of like when she says that she's been to like, I can't remember how many she said, was it 17 or something. How many?
Yeah, yes,
been through-
70 maybe.
Yeah, maybe 70.
Yeah.
There's a 7 in there. I can't remember if it's 17 or 70. And he's like, well, that's a lot. I'm like, if there's infinite universes, fuck you, that's a lot. It's not. But in the scheme of like, how many universes have I been to? It's like, well, I exist in this just one. So it is a lot compared to that. But it's like, if you're aware of the fact that it's an infinite number of universes, like you've scratched the surface and you've lucked into me. So like the cosmic chances after 71 tries, because he with the time stone, he's like, of 17 billion or million different iterations of this happening, there's only one in which we win, and like she's like, the 71st one is Gucci. I'm like, okay, technically it's statistically
I think that was
possible.
a multi-universal thing that he did in Infinity War. That was just like seeing the different futures of this.
For sure.
Different futures.
Different futures within this,
yeah.
with all of those variables. What I'm saying is there are a lot more variables across an infinite number of universes in which she could have ended up with a shitbag version.
Well, the whole thing is she didn't luck into any of it, did she?
No. That's not established until the end. Like the fact that she is in control and is going to the right places. I'm just saying statistically, it's not. You're ruining my point, Ben.
That's another one of those things where you should have been in my chair going, like, statistically, this doesn't make any sense. She would just luck upon, and then
by the end of it, they answer that question.
They answer the question just as I make that thought, and I'm like, no,
but
foiled again.
Which is probably why that thought stuck in my head, because it wasn't rebutted until the end of the movie, where he's like, "It was you the whole time."
Yeah. I hear you about, just back on the Doc Strange point, Terry and his character. I think I just wanted a bit more introspection. Like for me, it's like from the very beginning, from that first fight scene in New York City when America Chavez first appears. From that point onwards, it's just the plot pulling Doctor Strange along. It's like none of his own character.
He's on
is exactly.
There's a leash around his neck. He's being dragged through it.
That's it. Anyway, that is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's in cinemas right now. You don't need me to tell you that. Get around to it. Don't rush, but it's fun to be had.